Okay. Oh, the chat window. That's right. Oh, there's everybody. We talking about the 360 version of CastleMiner Z. Yeah, it's a shame you can't play those games anymore. There was a lot of good stuff there. Pin the chat window over here. I got two things I want to do today. I'm still working on the world builder. I think the Oasis turned out well. I posted a picture of that somewhere. Um, I have to put water in the lagoon, um, and I also want to put work on hell a little bit today. So let's see if I can do both of those. I have a different microphone too, so hopefully I sound a little bit better than I did before. Yeah, I have a good story about the end of. Somebody asked here about the treatment of XBLIGs, and I have a really good story about that, but I'm not 100% sure I could tell it. Um, like I had a funny interaction with the. Really? It might just because it's further away from my face. Like I got. Let me see if I could. Let's go into. See if there's anything I can do about that. Yeah, I need like a. I need a better. I need like a better setup here. Still too quiet. Still too quiet. Y'all, everybody came here to help me configure my microphone. How we doing now? Uh, yeah, I had a meeting with the people who ran that group later on, um, and it was interesting that the attitude that they had towards the XBLIG people, like it was, on some level they liked that they were there, but they were also kind of annoyed with them. Um, and shortly after that, I had a meeting with the president of Warner Brothers uh, Interactive, um, about making a game for them. And one of her first reactions to me was like, "Oh wow, like Microsoft must be dying to work with you." And I'm like, "No, they're not. They don't want to." Um, uh, at one point, my wife at the time was at a fundraising event with somebody from that group, and she was like, "Oh, my husband is the guy who does all the blah 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 on Xbox," and they were like, "Yeah, we know him. Like everybody knows him." So they did not like the fact that I was on there. I agree with you. I made this argument to the guy running the ID group. Somebody said here that they XBLIG carried the Xbox, and I agree with you. I made an argument with uh, the guy who ran the ID group, and I was like, I publicly said this is that if you don't support indies, that's kind of like the future. Like you're not doing it. The story was really actually kind of interesting. I went to while I was doing the XBLIG thing, I interviewed at a group inside of Microsoft. People don't know, I used to work in Microsoft Games. I actually knew the people who started XBLIG. I had worked there for 5 or 6 years early on, like in the 90s, when they first started. But I met with the guy who was kind of responsible for. I'll tell this. Someone's asked here, like, why don't they like me, and why didn't they like the XBLIGs? And I'll explain the whole story. So I I was already doing pretty well on XBLIG, but I hadn't made Castle Miner yet, and there was a bunch of me and my friends that were also doing XBLIG stuff. So I took a job interview at the time in that group, and I met the guy who was sort of responsible for running that the XBLIG thing. And long story short, what he said to me was that they kind of saw the Xbox marketplace as like a money hose, and it was like, he didn't say this exactly, but this is me paraphrasing this, is that, you know, they wanted people in front of the dashboard spending money constantly. And they really liked the XBLIG games because you paid $1 or $2 and you only played them for a couple minutes or an hour or so, and then you got back on the dashboard and you bought something else. And he said to me, what I don't remember if he said it or I inferred this, but he said basically this, their nightmare was for somebody to have like a $1 game that people played for like hundreds of hours, because that would mean that they weren't spending money, that they only spent $1, and now they're not back in front of the Xbox dashboard. And it was really funny because I came back to my friends that were making XBLIGs after the interview, and I said, wow, it's like their worst nightmare is one of these XBLIG games really monopolizing people's time. And the worst case scenario would be as if somebody took Minecraft and put it on the XBLIG marketplace. And at that point, I should have like stopped what I was doing and went and made CastleMiner right away, but I didn't do it. And in the meantime, DJ Arcus released Fortress Craft, and it was like, wow, I was totally right. Like, why would I have known this and like not did this? And then when he did that, that was sort of like a kick in the pants for us to finally go through with it. At the time period, the games I was making were really small, and I felt like making a game like Minecraft on the XBLIG would be like too big of a risk because it would be too big of a game. But Fortress Craft really illustrated that, you know, that an XBLIG game could do like really well. So like we sort of immediately, I think I was working on Avatar Superstar at the time, and we immediately did that. So back to the question. There's a question here: is what caused them to not like me? And I like, no one ever said that they disliked me. They were all, I think, kind of irritated, and I think it was for two reasons. One of them was that I was putting a bunch of games on the marketplace that people were playing too much. So like they would buy CastleMiner for, at the beginning was $3 and $1, and they would play it for a really long time. And by doing that, I was taking people away from the dashboard where they could have been spending money on other things. It's the most backwards way to think about it. So instead of like looking and saying like, oh, here's a developer on the Xbox that sold millions of games, and maybe we should give them a publishing deal, because I tried to get several publishing deals with them, and they always said no. Instead, you know, they're going to like, they looked at me in a negative light because I was sort of like monopolizing people's time in front of the Xbox when they could have been buying other things. It was sort of ridiculous. So when I talked to the CEO of Warner Brothers, like he was so shocked by this, because he was like, because they wanted to work with me. We were in talks about making a Lego game at one point. And, you know, he was just so shocked by this, because he was so shocked that they wouldn't, that he was like, Microsoft must be like dying to work with you. And we did, I think I released the video at one point for Avatar Backyard Battles, which ended up being Avatar Warfare, which was something else. The next part of it was that we were probably taking sales away from Minecraft. So I want to set the record straight here, because there's so many versions of this, and I was watching an old Total Biscuit video last night with my daughters, and there's so many different versions. Is that Fortress Craft came out first. It was sold more games than anybody had ever done on XBLIG before. We came out with CastleMiner, and our sales took off. When Minecraft came out, our sales were not affected at all. They were, we just continued to sell games, and I always saw them as like different products. Like I didn't think that one replaced the other. But what I did notice is that in the early days of the Xbox 360 dashboard, there was a recommendation thing. And if you went to Minecraft, and it was done with like machine learning, and if you went to Minecraft, the first thing that they recommended was CastleMiner. So I think people just played both. We were also a lot cheaper than Minecraft, but I can't help to think that there was probably some Microsoft executive somewhere saying that like, hey, we're asking for $30 for Minecraft, and here's this dude on the XBLIG marketplace that's undercutting us basically for $1. at the time, because I think by the time, like, CastleMiner had been out for like a year and a half before Minecraft was released on the Xbox, and since they had paid $2 billion for Minecraft, I'm sure that there was somebody inside of Microsoft that was irritated by the fact that um, we were selling our game for much cheaper on there, and it's kind of their fault, because if they would have fixed that marketplace the right way, we probably would have priced the game around $9 instead of $1. But there was a lot of reasons in the Xbox marketplace that you sort of like anything over the $1 price point was almost impossible to do, and a lot of it had to do with how the mechanics of the marketplace worked. Like, it made it almost one of the biggest things was that the amount of sales you got was completely dependent on the amount of units, not dollars, that you could sell every night, and that would put you on the top selling list, and the top selling list got the biggest exposure. So if you could stay on the top selling list, you would still sell up, but as soon as you dropped off of it, you would sell nothing. But if the titles there was $3 and $5, they wouldn't weight the titles based on revenue. They only did units. So what I learned early on in the system was there was a pretty linear relationship between the price and the sales. And what I mean by that is that if you went from $1 to $3, you would sell about a third as much, and you would make up about the same. Actually, there was 1, 3, and 5, and at 1 and 5, $1 you do pretty good. At $5, you seem to get half the revenue. Like, the sales would drop by more than half. At $3 was actually a sweet spot. It would increase to about 1.5 times the revenue, but it didn't matter because the dashboard didn't count revenue; it counted units. So somebody that was selling more than you for $1 would end up penetrating the list more than you. So the fact that CastleMiner sold for $3 in the beginning was a huge testament to the amount of sales that it could. Sort of not caught up in here in the comments. Yeah, somebody early on here asked if Minecraft not being on the Xbox was one of the reasons that we considered doing this. It actually isn't. What happened was, I could tell you this story. I was making indie games at the time period with some game industry friends of mine, and we were all playing Minecraft. And I think Minecraft was like an amazing thing, but when I played it, it didn't really resonate with me. I stopped playing it relatively quickly. And one of the reasons was because there wasn't, like, at the time period, and this was like 2009, it seemed like there just wasn't a lot to do. Like, after you built a big castle, and then it was like, okay, and I thought this would be cool if it was like hard to survive in it, like if it was a survival horror thing. And I thought, like, it would be really cool if you were running around in this with guns and like weapons that felt good and enemies that were hard to kill, and it was scary. And like, one of the funnest things that I like to do in Minecraft was I like to explore the caves. Like, I just for hours and hours would just go around and explore caves, and I thought, like, doing this in like a combat scenario would be fun. The problem with the XBLIG marketplace was that you to make money on there, you had to be the best-selling game. You couldn't be like the 5th best-selling game or whatever. You had to do what the marketplace wanted. And once Fortress Craft shipped on the Xbox, like, we didn't really have a choice. Like, it was like, if we wanted to keep selling games on XBLIG, we had to sort of just deliver what people wanted. So I had never, like, set out to make a Minecraft game, but when that happened, it was sort of like, well, what Minecraft game could we make? And it was funny because at the time period, I remember I was working on Avatar Superstar, and which totally bombed, but it was fun game to make. And John came to me and he said, like, I want to make a game with you. And I said, here, like, build a block engine for the Xbox, and like, it'll do really well. And he went off and did that, and then the rest of it, the first CastleMiner game came up, but we were kind of like behind the curve. And then immediately after doing the first CastleMiner game, John came to me and said, what do we do now? And I said, we add zombies. Like, there's no, like, zombies and guns. There's no question. Man, I didn't anticipate this turning into like a big Q&A, but I'm totally cool with it. Uh, yeah, somebody a bunch of comments in here about murder miners. Um, I actually I communicate most I communicate with most of the XBLIG people. I always did, and it was always a very friendly system. The guy that DJ Arcus that made Fortress Craft, the guy that made Total Miner, like we had done cross promotions at one point. Like behind the scenes, all of us would talk. And the J-Force too. Like I was always in conversation with J-Force, and I've talked to J-Force over the years about doing the murder miners stuff. The thing that was interesting to me about murder miners is it just like came out of nowhere. I mean, they just did a great job. It's just a great game. They just did a great job. But like, if you look at like the stuff that they did before that, it's like there wasn't a progression. Like there was like they had made a bunch of like games that were much smaller, and then a boom, like a fully functional multiplayer. Like I would actually love to know the the story behind that. But yeah, I don't like I've talked to them casually. We've never worked together, but I think Murder Miners is great, and I think they filled a niche on the Xbox that was great, and it was cool to see that game live on in Steam. Uh, Yeah, and I don't know, like, I think I think the other thing that bothered Microsoft in the XBLIG time period was that they had no control over it. And I have a bunch of interesting stories about that because I don't know that a lot of people know about the way that that system worked. But, and it's interesting because I knew people on both sides of it. I knew the people making it, and I knew the people, obviously that were developing and moderating the system. And and the way it worked in those days was that you put a game up on the system, and you needed the community being the other game developers on the system, your competition, needed to vote on your title to go through. And I think what it came down to was 7 votes to pass you, and I think it only took 2 votes to kick you out of the system. And once you got kicked out of the system, there was like a 14-day waiting period or a 7-day waiting period that you had to wait before you could re-enter the system. And the reason they did this was because Microsoft, for legal reasons, could not see what was on that system and not published yet. So, so it created this problem because Microsoft needed some way to moderate that system without actually having visibility into it themselves. Like they needed to be blind from what was on the other side of the XBLIG wall of the titles that had not been released yet. And what their solution was the MVPs at the time were just like these people that they hired, which were essentially community managers that would manage the community and then talk to Microsoft, and they were the liaison. And the problem with that is that they became like the voice, like the voice that filtered your concerns up to Microsoft. So however they presented your case to Microsoft is what Microsoft would lean on. So if they had an opinion about something, it's sort of like they could just color their opinion in their communications with Microsoft, and Microsoft would make decisions about that. And in that time period, there was so much drama. Like in the beginning with XBLIG, it was like a soap opera. We just loved the drama. Like, oh, some guy put a game up and like somebody failed it, and now like somebody else has put a similar game up, and there was so many funny things that happened. I think to me, that was almost like half the fun of being on that system was that it was this big soap opera of like all these like indie game developers that were like always like there was little cliques, and they were always trying to, and the MVPs were always trying to like straighten everything out, and like it was fun. Like it was fun. But in the end, I don't know. I've never seen another system that was as good as that because I think XNA was like sort of the right amount of middleware to make games, and their tools were great to get stuff on the Xbox, and there was like sort of like just enough moderation in the marketplace. Like it was still a free marketplace where you could put stuff up there, but there was still enough moderation where it was people weren't just throwing junk on there, like, 100 games a day of junk. So it was like, and typically, I don't know, there was like 2 or 3 titles a day would come out, which I think is the best pacing for that marketplace. And it was very easy to make money there. And in a system where it's very easy to make money, even small amounts of money, it's very rewarding for new developers to make things. Because even if you're a person who's never made a game before and you make a game and all of a sudden you're making like, like $1,000 a week, like that's a huge amount of money for like an indie game developer. Where what happens is as the systems get more evolved, they become like a winner take all system where like 99% of the things up there make nothing, and then 1 or 2% make insane amounts of money. And XBLIG was really this great balance of the two things. Yeah, what do we got here? Yeah, people are asking me about like game design stuff. Uh, it's interesting while we're making this, one of the biggest debates that we keep having is how much do we preserve of the original Castle Miner, and how much do we do we make that's new? And it's not always an obvious decision. So okay, you guys have. I should set up a. I should stream better. If I'm going to sit here talking, at least I should set up a scene where I fill the entire screen. Um, okay, so why don't we throw this water in the lagoon? What I need to look at is I need to go look at the like screenshots from the original Castle Miner. In the code here, I have the code since the CastleMiner Z was a branch of the original Castle Miner. I have the original lagoon code. I think it was the coastal biome. Because CastleMiner Z was a branch from CastleMiner. And I could look at how we distributed the water in that spot. We don't have water in the game yet, but it's being done in parallel to this. There were, maybe you guys remember, there was one world that was like lagoons, and then there was another world that was like a coastal world, and then there was some other ones, I think, but it was the original Castle Miner world that the lagoons were built on. What I could do is I could pull that up. Let's see if we could find some old screenshots that at least get the vibe. So at least when we're done with this, we'll know like what we... So it looks like, okay, I'm looking at them here. I'm actually looking at the old box cover that the lagoons were, yeah, that's right. We had a water plane in Castle Miner, which was probably where the sand is in lagoon. So this isn't going to be very helpful to us. We have to do something more creative than this. So either I'm not sure I want water everywhere in the lagoon. Let's just start with this. Let's just make something up, because I don't think that we're going to have anything helpful here. Let's start by we're going to build the lagoon only. Maybe I could just do a stream where I refactor code for 2 hours. You guys get to see all the fun stuff. The plan is, somebody asked about what the water is going to be like. The water in Castle Miner 1 was a water plane. The plan is to bring the Castle Miner Warfare water into this game, the water that simulates. It's not done yet, so I don't know, but what I wanted to do here was I wanted to make sure that the code was ready to put water in the lagoon I have water in the oases that we did yesterday. Um, and we will, and then eventually when the water comes in, then everything will be there to put the water in, and I can move on to other stuff. I'm also in the process of working with our artists on the sky and the day and night stuff. So it's like I have a couple different things going on right now. And at the same time, I'm learning Unreal and Rider, which I've never used before. And I'm refamiliarizing myself with C++, which I haven't used in 20 years, and it's apparently changed a lot since then. We need our flags in here. Yeah, I added. Okay. And what I'm doing here is I'm making it so that I only see the lagoon so that I don't have to go and find it every time I do a test. I think. Yeah, no, here is. Okay. Let's do it. I watched, somebody's asking if I saw the video about the history of CastleMiner. I don't know exactly which one you're talking about. I saw a video like this. Oh, by the way, these are new blocks. We got new leaves in here. And there was a couple other textures we put in. So obviously the water needs to be in these sandy places. And in the original CastleMiner game, all of this was water. And we just replaced it with sand. But this landscape would be like not traversable if it was all water. So my plan here is to have sort of like I have two separate plans. One of them is to have sort of like a mixture of sand and water in here, and the other one is to have pools in the center of this. Probably try both of them to see how they work. What do you guys think of the leaves? Because these actually went in yesterday, I think. No comment on that. Okay. Let's see which one would be easier. I think the pools would actually might be easier to do than the other ones. Just see how that works. So let's go down to our lagoon builder. And it's funny because a lot of these have not been touched in a really long time, and I don't know, they're like mess. It's like the code is messy and I'm unfamiliar with it. So it looks like overhangs, cap the overhangs. What happens? Let's just take the overhangs out for a second and just see what everything looks like. Oh, interesting. Without the overhangs, we kind of have the original CastleMiner world. That doesn't make sense to me. So remember, the CastleMiner world was a version of the... I have no idea what this stuff is anymore. Okay, so this noise function is going to be the one that dictates where our water comes from if we do it like this. Let's start renaming variables. Someone's asking here, what? Someone's asking why there were features in the PC that didn't make it into the Xbox version. There was a lot of work done on the PC version that was after the Xbox marketplace didn't even exist anymore. But I don't know exactly what features you're talking about because they're essentially like almost two separate games. Man, I should have taken a I should have taken a look at this before uh, I started doing this live because this is going to be a lot of pressure. I don't. Yeah, this all should probably be refactored before I go messing with it, and that is not going to be fun to watch. So okay, so somebody's talking about the lucky blocks. The lucky blocks were made literally after the Xbox marketplace was shut down. So the history of this is we maintained CastleMiner for many many years, and then we went off and we made some other games. And in that time period, we there's a whole history of the the CastleMiner coming to the PC. And once it was on Steam, the last update our team did, I think, was when we redid all the textures and everything. When like we did the first remaster, and after that, I hired a company to work with us to do updates on the game, and like they did a good job. But all of that stuff happened after the marketplace had been shut down. I think the marketplace shut down in like 2015, and I think I hired that company the year after that. So it wasn't even possible for us to take the changes that other company did and pull it back to the original CastleMiner. And as much as they did a great job, a lot of them I didn't really agree with. Like I so the A lot of those we actually probably won't replicate in the remaster, at least not right away. The version I want to bring up is sort of like the version that was like the last version on the Xbox, and go from there. Um, Yeah, everybody keeps asking about modding. Like we have uh, a plan to continue doing updates for the game. Like right now, this really, we're kind of dealing with just trying to get everything running, and all of us are don't have a lot of experience with Unreal, so we're trying to just get a game out. And but I understand that the value and the stuff that you guys have done in the mod community is really great. So I understand the value of that. Somebody's asking. This is funny. This is just going to turn into a big Q&A. Let me do this in the meantime. Um, somebody is oops. So we are using Unreal Engine to create the game. So somebody's asking about that. Um, Someone's asking about the design decision on the player model on the PC. This is interesting because when we made it on the Xbox, um, like everybody wanted to use their avatars for everything, and I thought that was kind of cool. And it was cool because you didn't have to design a player character system. So everybody was sort of happy with the avatars on the Xbox. But when we moved to the PC, we actually had a problem because we had to like figure out something to do with the Xboxes or with the characters. Um, I was trying to imagine what sort of characters would be in this world, and in my head, what I always imagined is some sort of like futuristic like space marine or something like that. Like, and I always thought it was so cool the idea of like like Navy SEALs fighting dragons or something. Um, so we had the SWAT guy made, and he was supposed to just look like some generic like paramilitary character. And in my head, that's what I thought about is like Navy SEALs fighting dragons. Um, but one of the problems is that the avatars on the Xbox were like short and stubby, and we were trying to do a port to the PC at the time where we could do updates to both platforms at the same time, which meant like a minimal amount of changes between the two platforms, which may have been a mistake. So I wanted to make sure we shared all the animations from the Xbox to the PC. But when we took this SWAT character and we put the avatar skeleton on, he looked kind of like short and stumpy, and then he looked too much like a cop. So like I never really liked it very much. But we don't. I don't have a plan for this right now, so I'm afraid to talk about it too much. But one of the things that I've been insistent on is that I do not want to port the SWAT guy over to this version of the game. I think that like it was like there's like a series of compromises, like the the avatars were a compromise. The SWAT guys being short and stubby was a compromise, and like having to compromise again to bring these like short, stubby cops into the game. I don't want to do it, and I always imagine sort of like a futuristic Navy SEAL or something like that. So and everybody asks about a character customization system. I could guarantee you that we are not going to roll out in the beginning with that because there's it's a system that's just difficult to make. So like that's definitely something we could do in the future, but we have to draw a line in the sand on some version of the player character. Someone's asking about like whether we could bring the 360 avatars to the PC version, and I actually looked at I looked at possibilities for this, and I actually don't believe that there's any way to do that. I mean, Microsoft would have to facilitate that on some reason, and they were so much more interested in killing XNA than they were, like, adding things like that to it. It was interesting because XNA ran originally on the PC and then on the Xbox, and then they kind of half supported the PC, but there was things that didn't work well on the PC, and avatars are one thing and networking was the other. The networking was a real problem for us. Okay, let's see if we can make any headway here with this water. I thought this would be the easy one, but maybe we should do the hell one first. That actually might be easier. I thought it'd be cool to dress up hell a little bit. So why don't we do that instead? Wonder if I could build a world that just had hell in it. I've never actually tried doing that. So hell is built in 2 passes, with the ceiling and the floor being 2 separate. Kind of curious what happens if I think I need the caves in there too. Otherwise I'm so curious what this would look like. I'm just gonna run it. Whoa, right down in hell with no ceiling. Okay, so let's find a better way to do this. Let's, instead of doing this, let's build the whole world again. But instead of the tower, I'll just make that be a hole. It's funny. Somebody's asking here if the bloodstone should move a little bit. The slime actually moves now. Yeah, we should be able to. Wow, I removed all the rock underneath. How did I do? Okay, that I didn't expect. So let me understand what I did. Actually, didn't build there. Yeah, I wonder if I could easily, okay, I screwed up something. I had made a bunch of changes today, but now this is like the most uninteresting thing to watch. I don't understand how I screwed up this so bad. Let's put that, maybe it's a side effect that I didn't anticipate. Okay, this is like... It's like all the rock is gone for some reason. Oh, here's the change. Okay. This is interesting. I have another change I was going to make, but I inadvertently broke the world. Oh, so the default here is rock instead. That's it. Okay. We're in business. Let's just make sure that works. Yes, got everything back. Okay, let's take the tower and use it to make a hole instead. And now we should have a hole down to hell. Yeah, this is the depth of the new world. It's built. The builder is still not done yet, but yeah, something's wrong here. Okay. I think the build, John is still working on how the builder prioritizes stuff. You're seeing through the walls to all the caves. Yeah, it's going to catch up with me eventually. Okay. Here we are in the Hell 2.0. The lava is going to be liquid in the new one here instead of being a lava block. But what I want to do is, I thought about having like stalactites hang down from the ceiling, so that should be a pretty easy thing for us to do. I also kind of like the lighting is really good on things like the lava. This is like one of the things that Unreal gets us is this really great lighting. So doing more stuff with that might be cool. But let's start with the stalactites. But this is going to be hard to do. So let's temporarily shrink the depth of the world so that we don't have to fly down there all the time. This is we have different versions of the world now. This is the original version, was 86 blocks down. This is the new one, is 256 blocks. And then I've made a bigger version and a smaller version of the world. Just so that there was a selection of it. So let's just make this like, I wonder if we made this like 450, if we would end up with trouble. Here we go. Yeah, okay, that's good. That'll be easy to test. Okay, cool. Let's... man, I wonder if it'll feel cramped in here with the stalactites. Like, maybe we should open this gap up a little bit. Like, I have the space to do it now. Well, we'll try doing it. So I think that the best start with the stalactites is going to be the code that generates the mountains. So that's a pretty straightforward... Nah, let's just... We could just roll this our own. Okay. This is the one that... This is the biome that builds the ceiling, and I don't remember why I build the ceiling and the floor as two separate biomes, but I'm not going to mess with it right now. Let's do... let's roll another Berlin noise over this. We could probably use the original noise channel. Let's take the octaves out right away. And basically want to truncate the noise from -1 to 0. Let's put we'll put an expression here for let's start with 10. And let's just add in time stalactite noise. And take that out because we don't use it, and we will add a scalar for it. See what we get. So somebody's asking if they wanted to get in contact with me on Instagram. Because of the Jello thing, for a while I was getting a lot of unsolicited stuff on Instagram, and I probably missed it. If you want to make a documentary on the game, I would be more than happy to help you with that. Okay, this did not work at all. Okay, so let's figure out why that is. We're definitely getting a negative number. What I usually do when I start this is now I start to just probe around with orders of magnitude and just see if we can see something. Nothing at all. Wow. Okay, let's take away the other one, just so we're not confusing. The ceiling should be flat now. Okay, yeah. Now let's figure out why we're not getting any sort of overhang in here at all. World scale is 15/16. That's actually really, really small. I have this noise tool where I have to remember what direction things move in. If I want things bigger, you scale the number smaller. It's like counterintuitive, yeah. But I should be getting waves at the top of the, on some level. .03. So we should be getting something. We should be getting waves from this could be causing the problem too. No. Oh God. Okay. Let's take the clamp out. Nope. Let's use the, oh no, this is my bad here. Mistake. I can't even, somebody wants to know when the thing is going to be released. I can't even get a stalactite to appear. Like, this is the you tell me. I'm hoping soon. Like, I'm hoping I would really like the I'm afraid to say anything, but I want to measure this project in months, not you know, anything longer than that. I think that it's a rare opportunity that I have all the original people together, and I just want to make sure that I can, you know, get the best use out of that possible. Let's use the hell scale. See, this doesn't even make any sense anymore because this should be. Oh. Oh, that's right. This will be way more fun once we finally get something to show up. Okay, this is, so it's a scaling issue. So let's take that and let's just, what's this hell scale is 0.03. So let's start with that and let's put our scaler back in. I appreciate all the support that you guys have given us over the years. Like I say that a lot, and it's not like lip service. That like you guys have been like you know, you have like been like a transformative thing in my life, and you've allowed me to do something that I think a lot of people don't get to do, which is to like do what they love and to do it, you know, all the time. Oh, duh. This. And to do it like full time, so like I can't express like how much I appreciate the fact that you guys have supported, you know, this in such a way. Okay, here we are. That was the mistake. So let's take this and let's scale it back by 10. Yeah. So we should have a much denser field of bumps on the top of the. Yeah, here we go. That's more like a whoops. Yeah, that was probably too much, but that's definitely what we're going for. want that in half. Actually double. Yeah, which was the number I started with. Okay. Yeah, too dense. Now let's throw in the octaves. Just see what we get. Wait a second. Let's adjust the density again. I always thought that hell ceiling was a little boring. Those are definitely too tight. I should look at the mountains, because the mountains really do this well. But I think the mountains are just a... Yeah, it's the valleys that are hard to do. The mountains are just a scaled up. Yeah, somebody's asking here what parts of the game that I'd like to work on. And what do you wish I'd done differently? I think, so I started making video games when I was like a really little kid. And I started doing it professionally when I was like in my early 20s. And I think what I found about working in the AAA game industry was that you only got to work on like a really small part of a video game. And what I kind of liked about doing the indie games is I got to do everything. And I'm also a musician and I like to do videos, and it was like I could do all of those things together. So the favorite part to me was that I could touch so many parts of the games. Like I could do music. And I think the best thing that I do in terms of like on the team is it's about atmosphere. Is like I like to build, you know, like the atmosphere, and I like to come up with the concepts for the game. Luckily I have John, who's like a really, really great engineer, and he does the really, really hard stuff, which is like a relief for me, because the first, I think, 10 games I made all by myself. What things I wish I would have done differently? I think the way to me that I'm happy the way that CastleMiner came together. I think that bringing it to more platforms was something that I wish I would have done earlier on. Okay, let's get something going here. Let me just take a look at what we got. Actually, Okay, they definitely need to be sharper. So let's just keep reducing them until they're sharp enough. Let's go half of that. Double. Scott. One trick here is you can square the noise. Yeah, we're gonna have to increase the depth at that point. That is not what we're looking for at all. Okay. Let's go back to what we had. So just be a little deeper. Somebody's asking what the area past 3,000 was called. We always called it. I called it the descent. That's what it was in the code. It was the descent into hell. Okay. These are actually not so bad. Like we wouldn't have so many, but this is kind of what we're looking for. We could shrink them just a little bit more. Direction. You know, given the density of the blocks, I don't think you could make a better stalactite than this. Like, just given how big the blocks are, this is almost like exactly what I would expect this to look like. It's interesting that there's rock that, because we'll have to fix that later. So since I don't want this to cover everything, we'll have to build like a mask to mask them off. And that's a pretty easy thing to do. So let's do that. Okay. This part of doing it, I really love. This part of doing this game, like building the world out of these mathematical functions, I thought was one of the funnest things to do. And I had spent many years leading up to CastleMiner building things with noise like this. So when Minecraft came out, I knew exactly what they were doing, and I thought it was really cool. There was years ago, I think it was around 2008 or 2009. I was building this real estate game. There was like a 2D real estate game where I was building an entire world out of noise, and then Minecraft came out, and you know, built a whole 3D world out of it, and immediately I knew how it was, and I thought, God, that's so cool. Site mask. Oh, let's put the clamp back in here and see what we get. Shouldn't change anything. Yeah. There's interesting, there's like, it's kind of cool. There's little spots of lava in here. Maybe we'll preserve that. I mean, this should all be bloodstone, but then little bits of lava inside of there. It'll look cool because they'll light up in interesting ways if we do that. So let's, yeah, we're going to do this mask. So this is going to be a 2D mask. But this one should be off by an order of magnitude. Oh, before we do this too, let's throw the octaves in here and see what that looks like. It actually should make the top more interesting. 4 of them is probably good. I could totally make the stalactites meet. There's some challenge in doing that, but I can like synchronize the noise function so that they do that, and I could do it on selective ones too. So, but we have to kind of get there in layers. Okay, that's interesting. Actually, almost like that better. It's just too deep. So let's cut these in half. Someone's asking about material progressions. Here's the deal. If there's going to be more materials, the game I originally wanted to make, I always described as like 3D Terraria. The idea was that there was a world, and it was all about the progression of the world was all about materials and crafting versus like physical exploration. So I would love to build that. That's like not enough. Love to build that game. You know, in some fashion. So I always had this fantasy about this game where like the world like was really deep, and there was different monsters at different depths, and that, you know, you could go exploring and looking for, you know, certain animals, or not animals but monsters to hunt, to you know, to get specific items that you needed to craft. That one looks pretty cool. Okay, let's do this. Let's get this mask out of here. Okay, so we should be able to just knock half of these out all the time. So if yeah, so here we see we're only getting like half of them, and some combination of these masks are what's gonna make this look good. And then once we throw the undulations of the ceiling inside, it'll look really neat. So we definitely need a couple octaves on the noise here. Let's just run a quick test for that. Yeah, it's kind of sporadic. I think I would like it a little bit more sporadic though. So we're going to let's reduce the scale a little bit. Yeah, so now they're kind of appearing every once in a while. There's still too many, so let's make it less. And the way we're going to do that is by just bumping up the clip here. Yeah, I realized I wasn't actually listening to anything in the headphones, and like it was kind of ridiculous to like a lot of times I'm listening to music. This isn't right. Yeah, I saw the spots photo. That's easy to fix. I'll figure out why that is. This should be doing the opposite of what it's doing, so I don't Oh, because we're clipping it off. Okay. No, other way around. Like this is we're basically discriminating on what areas should or shouldn't have, and the higher that number gets, the less. There we go. That's actually probably good. You know, they show up in clusters. I have an idea. If we multiplied these two together, let me think. Yeah, we would get a blend in and out of that. So what we want to do here is we want to so we wanted to we want to normalize this. So it's going to be should be smaller, but they should blend better. Yeah, and now you're seeing this where they're blending in and out. Actually, that's not so bad. figure out why that happens, but curious how this would look now if we bring back the uneven top of the cave. Nope. Let's try to get our original caves back. So that's the original top of the cave, and we're just adding in the stalactite noise. So we should yeah, there we go. Yeah, assuming all the other stuff is fixed, I think that's kind of what I was looking for. I think what's happened in these areas is I think the cave cutter is cutting through these because they're rock and not bloodstone, and I have several ways to fix that. Might be a little long. Let's just shorten them just a little bit and see. Yeah, that's definitely it. Yeah. So obviously they have to be connected. They should be bloodstone all the way. I might stick some lava on the sides of them, but I think that's going to be really uninteresting to watch. This makes me want to do the ground over. If I could flatten the ground a little bit, put the same thing on there, and then maybe having them connect, like you said. And then maybe making all of it taller. Let me see if I could just make the ceiling taller. I think I'd just do this, actually. Oh, we're like cutting into the world. Yeah. Well, if I had that, I could have more stalactites. So we could put these down at 15 again. like it. Like, that actually looks cool, and I could see the bottom side doing something similar. You see, before if I end the stream here, maybe I could fix the other issue. One of these is, yeah, ceiling. Top is the adjusted hill height, yeah, and ceiling bottom. Plus the stalactite. So if we go from 0 to ceiling top, if we are less than the ceiling bottom, otherwise these get cut. Yeah, this is the place where we're getting the gaps. Let's just take this out for now and see how it looks. We'll have to dig our way down there though. Someone's asking about the loop blocks. I'll be really honest, I don't like them. I think I spent a long time trying to balance all the materials in the game, and I feel like the loop blocks really mess that up. I don't know, what do you think? Do you think there needs to be more of these? Or this is a good... Oh, we got the ceiling is screwed up. Interesting to me that we don't, that the ceiling is like that. Let's just drop the ceiling. I don't remember what. Yeah, I'm still having all the problems. Fixing these bugs is not an entertaining thing to watch, so, but they're all easily fixable. I'm just wondering if there should be like more of these. Let's try putting a little bit more in. For this gets a little screwy. Yeah. I don't know. Is that too much? Maybe somewhere in between those. I think that's probably it. Yeah, and we can. That's good. What is this? I have to think about this math here, this to balance this out the right way. Make a note for myself because I'm going to have to step away here. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate everybody showing up. I'll probably do another one of these tomorrow, and hopefully over the evening I'll get this stuff put together. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.